Okay, let's go over part two of our notes right here. I'll start this slideshow as soon as I can get it. We ended up yesterday at the debate at home, so this is where part two starts. The debate in America, basically Prime Minister Winston Churchill asked Roosevelt for help in the war. Many Americans didn't want to get involved because of what happened in World War I. They wanted to be isolationists, which means basically isolate yourselves. There was enough trouble at home with the Great Depression, so we still weren't really out of it yet, so a lot of us were worried about that. The United States decided to help by allowing Britain to borrow all of the military supplies it needed. I mean, we provided as much military supplies as they needed. It was called the Lend-Lease Act. We did not ask for any payments. We were lending them, and essentially they were leasing it from us. We would get payments for those later. So, remember, why did some Americans believe that the Lend-Lease program would lead America into the war? I will give you those answers at a later date. Okay. Let's talk about the attack on Pearl Harbor. Japan had great military successes in the early years of World War II. They wanted to control much of China and Southeast Asia, but the U.S. did not agree with this. And the reason why, I had a college professor argue this, that Japan had they had some resources, but they really did not have a lot of natural resources. So they needed to take over all these areas that had oil and rubber and et cetera, et cetera. And that's why they were going to war in Southeast Asia and China. The United States placed a ban on things like oil and scrap metal that were traded with Japan in order to try and get them to stop conquering other countries. So we were giving them oil. We were giving them early on. We were giving them, many of the supplies, but we stopped it to say, hey, we won't give you any more if you continue to attack, which is ironic because they just ended up attacking us. The Japanese were very angry by this. They relied heavily on imports, not just from the United States, but they felt that the United States was standing in their way to get more and more resources. So they felt like they needed to, attack the United States. Japan decided to bomb the United States naval base at Pearl Harbor. They knew that this would heavily weaken the United States naval force. It really did. It devastated our naval force. This was December 7th, 1941. Japanese planes bombed the United States naval base at Pearl Harbor. It was a surprise attack on an early Sunday morning. They were not prepared for this attack at all. This is an interactive map. I'm going to have to get you these later because I don't think it's working with y'all's program. Here's an aerial view of Pearl Harbor. This was after, I believe, after some of the bombing. You can see a lot of the oil slicks and everything going on. There's some more devastation. Very, very devastating event. Right here is some more pictures. Can't remember what ship that is. There's a ship that's been destroyed. I'll get you these videos later. 2,300 American soldiers, more than 2,300 soldiers, sailors, and civilians were killed. It was the worst attack on U.S. soil that the world had ever seen. I'll get to that later. December 8th, the next day, the United States declared war against the Axis powers. Actually, we declared war against Japan, which then Germany declared war on us, and we declared war on Germany, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's what the U.S. Arizona looks like today, USS Arizona. If you get a chance to go see it, you're going to need to go see it. There's so many of the people that died. Why do you think Japan chose to attack the base of Pearl Harbor and not another location? I'll give you those answers later. I'll tell you what, let's finish this out, and I'll give you part three the next time. I'm just seeing how many more notes we have, so give me a sec. Okay, Axis advances. At the beginning of the war, Germany and Russia, or the Soviet Union, agreed not to attack one another because they both wanted to expand their countries. They felt like they could share many parts of Eastern Europe. In June 1941, Hitler broke his agreement and invaded the Soviet Union. He basically was power hungry, needed more resources. I mean, he essentially was power hungry. What do you think that Joseph Stalin will need to do now? He's going to have to join who? The United States and Great Britain. At first, we did not really like the Soviet Union. We knew some of the things that were going on in the country at that time. We'll talk about that later. But they decided to help one another to defeat Germany. They knew that Germany was one of the worst enemies that the world had ever seen. There's a meeting of them. I think that's the Yalta meeting. And so the U.S. helped the Soviets by giving them supplies, trucks, radios, boots, giving them canned meat to feed the armies and children and citizens. The U.S. and Soviet Union were allies, but they were not very friendly. Why did they choose to help one another? We'll talk about that later. I'll give you the answer. And that's the end. We'll pick up here next time. Thank you.